The struggles of finding a main game as an adult.
was young, my parents would take me to Blockbuster to rent a video game. Renting a video game. I feel like that term is almost alien to a lot of young people today.
I don't even understand it because I didn't have a Blockbuster.
But back in the mid-90s to early 2000s, you'd walk into Blockbuster, pick any game you want off the shelf, and rent it for 6 to 7 days. 3 days for newer titles, and this to me was considered fun. I'd sometimes rent
I'd imagine everything was fun when you were a kid. The time went slower, no expenses, money didn't exist. It was great.
the same N64 game every weekend. Games like Fighting Force 64, Destruction Derby 64, GoldenEye, The Ocarina of Time, all of these games come to mind. I'd bring the game home, play it over the weekend, bring it back the following week, and just repeat the same thing the following weekend. I didn't even have a way to save my game. I was a kid. When I
Sounds fun.
was little, I didn't care about save games or progress or anything like that. I just liked picking up a game and playing it. It sounds monotonous and repetitive, and my god it was, but I love doing that. I even remember saving up my allowance money for weeks just to buy the monthly PlayStation magazine. They always had these demo discs that were included.
Dude, getting some kind of game magazine or something like that, and it's 3 months old and you don't care, it's still fun to look at. Man, those were the days, my friend.
At the back of it, I would bring those discs home and play those demos over and over and over again because I
Yeah, and some of those demos were real bad, but no one cared.
love trying new games and getting lost in these worlds. It sounds crazy to me now, but back then, I loved it. Fast forward to today, and I feel like it's such a struggle to find a game to get into. You think with things like Steam, with a massive library of games at your fingertips, or services that offer you extremely deep discounted game bundles like Humble Bundle or Fanatical, it would make it easier to find games to enjoy.
Yeah, most games I would call enjoyment and truly getting into, like spending 20 hours on that bad boy and never playing it again. That. Or maybe you spent 2,000 hours in it and then you regret your life decisions afterward. It happens.
But even with all these great services, I still find myself struggling to find a game that intrigues me. But why is this? Is it that
Because it costs money and time, and those are the two things that we don't have now.
games today just aren't the same as they were 20 years ago? Can it simply be that I've gotten older and I've grown out of that excitement phase of
Exactly. We have gotten older, we're 30. Literally, sand is dropping off us.
gaming? Or perhaps it's something else altogether? Well, with this video, I hope to find the root of that problem. Let's start with the most obvious of these. It's not me, it's video games that's changed theory. There's no denying that just 25 years ago, it was a much
Well, video games have definitely changed, but we have also sadly changed.
more simple time for video games. There was no season passes, no pre-order bonuses, no microtransactions. You paid a price and you got a full game. That was it. On top of that,
Dude, I remember playing GTA 3. It was amazing!
games back then were just made differently. I mean, they were made by people who actually had a passion for making video games and who were
And most of those games were unreasonably hard with super bad mechanics, but we didn't care.
fueled with creativity. Today, most AAA games are made by corporations. Corporations that care less about innovation and trying something new, and more about their profits and how much money they can make by doing as little work as possible. That's not to say that there's no passionate people in the industry, but companies like EA and Ubisoft have somewhat created a formula for making a video game. I like to call it the
Ubisoft has created a formula for killing itself, and I cannot wait until they finally finish doing that, okay? Assassin's Creed Shadows is gonna be a breaker, okay? Star Wars Outlaws already is getting completely ridiculed.
the playing it safe formula. A formula that's been proved and tested before, that's almost guaranteed to generate revenue, yet lacks no innovation and brings no
To be absolutely fair, if you're a sports fan, I don't think you honestly care. What are you gonna innovate in a sports game? Okay, you're playing a sports game. Okay, hockey, you're not gonna change that. Okay, there's not a lot to innovate there. There's only just a shittier version to be released next year. That's all that there is to it.
nothing new to the table.
Also, we don't really need innovation, okay? Some games have been timeless, they don't need innovation. Some games are still being played today, 20, 30 years later, and people are absolutely loving it. We don't need innovation in games, we just need good games in general. Overwatch didn't innovate on anything, it just was a good game, and that's why people played it at the start.
This may not 100% be a bad thing, but it definitely goes to show that video games today are made with a lot of other
If someone ever shows me a graph like this, I will instantaneously advocate for them being yeeted and deleted.
things in mind. That's why you see so many game companies starting to have season passes now. Because developers are trying to make all of their yearly revenue off of one IP instead of multiple. Once they catch success with a good one,
Yeah, that's the safe choice. And to be honest, it actually works because it's good. That's the brutal reality of this, okay? Take example Baldur's Gate from Larian. If Baldur's Gate 3 was a flop, Larian would just stop existing. They didn't have another choice. And that's it. That's how this works. If you can take a safer option and continue existing to see another day and make another game, you can't honestly blame these companies in a lot of cases for making that decision. But admittedly, obviously, that does not exactly apply to someone like Blizzard, Ubisoft, or all of these companies because they have the money. They just don't want to innovate because they want the safe and easy money from people who have two brain cells to work with.
they just milk it for as long as they possibly can, and that's really part of the problem. On top of that, let's not forget that early access is also a thing. Could you imagine if 20 years ago someone told you that for a price you could play an incomplete game? People would laugh you out of the room. Sure, there are plenty of great early access games out there on the market, but how many early access titles exist that have just been sitting in limbo for years after they've already collected money from the customer? So have
Dude, remember the early access craze that happened a couple of years ago? Where every game was launched as early access to just shake off a little bit of that responsibility? Yeah, man, that was a wild time.
video game companies changed for the worse over the years? In some ways, they have. You could definitely say that video game companies, for the most part, have shifted their focus from creating great iconic games to focusing more on increasing revenue streams, but it's also important to consider the evolution of video games as a whole as well. When video games first appeared on the scene, they were simple and primitive by today's standards. They were played on rudimentary devices like the Atari 2600 or the Commodore 64, and they often involved simple gameplay mechanics like shooting at enemies or avoiding obstacles.
True.
These games were fun in their own way, but they were also limited by
Dude, playing Space Invaders or whatever on the old Nokia phones, man, that was good.
the technology of the time. As the years went by, technology advanced and video games became more complex.
And then your parents started yelling at you, don't use the battery of the device, blah 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 blah. Bro, you could just plug it in. You could just plug the stupid phone in, and there you go. What the hell?
More sophisticated. With the advent of 3D graphics and more powerful hardware, developers were able to create games that were more immersive and realistic. But with this complexity came a lot of challenges for developers. They had to balance the desire to push the boundaries of what was possible with the need to keep the gameplay accessible but yet also enjoyable. With all these new innovations and new technologies also came new problems. Games that were made just 25 years ago didn't have the same complexity of the games that we have today.
They had a lot of useless complexity to a degree.
Today, games are held to a much higher standard than they used to. We no longer judge a game based off of just gameplay or how fun it is anymore. We scrutinize games for their graphics, their sound design, their storyline and writing, their acting, even how glitchy.
Yeah, because some of these modern games are extremely bad, and the only thing that's worth about them is the criticism. Again, look at the past Ubisoft titles and whatnot. You don't need to look far. Skull and Bones, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Concord. There are so many examples of games just being trash, buggy, woke messes with completely incomprehensible storylines that absolutely everyone hates, and for very good reason, because they're extremely bad.
Or buggy the game is.
It is kind of cheap to just call something bad or whatever, but it's true. Look at this. This is Fallout 76. Roughly how much would you say this is? 1/6 of your screen is taken up by mission objectives that you didn't want, you didn't ask for, you didn't acquire, they just popped up there. It's trash.
Couple all of this with the fact that game companies have tight budgets and holiday deadlines to maximize sales, and it's no surprise that we have unfinished, buggy day one releases.
Run!
Oh. Well, he ran. Maybe it's me. Nah,
But
buddy,
perhaps
you're fine.
it is us that are changing and not our games. As we get older, our interests change. We have more responsibilities.
Dude, just minus a couple of IQ points and we can all be happy, okay? The reality is simple. Stupid people happy. Okay? The more stupider we can make ourselves, the more TikTok we consume, the more YouTube shorts that we consume, the dumber we can be, and the easier we can enjoy things. The less critical thinking a person has, the more happiness in life there sadly is. You know what? You know what's the plight of intelligence? If a person's smart, they are thinking about, everything. You have a house, well, you need to keep the house warm at the winter, right? So you need some kind of fuel, wood or whatever. And you're thinking about it. A dumb person doesn't think about that. If he has fuel for one day, he's happy. That's it. We all need to just become dumb consumers that care about nothing, don't think, and that's our key to having a fun life again.
Or commitments. As a kid, my biggest problem was trying to finish my homework, and my biggest commitment was
Loser, doing your homework. Oh my god, the people who did you. Sad. I never did my homework.
showing up for that raid in World of Warcraft after school. Today, I hardly have the time to enjoy the things I loved doing every single day as a kid. These days, when I finally find the time to sit down and play a game, I almost feel overwhelmed. A huge open world 80+ hour game seems almost like a burden, a daunting task that's scary to even start. Do I find
Listen, playing League of Legends with a controller definitely does sound like a burden. Yeah, you got that one completely right on the money, Chief. This is definitely what I would describe as a burden and as a very autistic choice of living your life.
a daunting task that's scary to even start? Do I find the motivation to begin this endeavor? Or do I simply just jump into a quick online game with my friends because, after all, I don't know the next time we're all going to be free to play together? And as I get older, I find myself slipping further and further down that path. The kid in me wants
Okay, let's stop lying about the fact that it is everyone being constantly busy and that's why we can't meet up with our friends. It's the fact that we don't want to, in a lot of cases. We just, going somewhere sounds like a hustle, don't want to do it, I'll better just stay at home and do nothing.
to play long, story-rich RPG adventure games, but the adult in me is telling me, no. I just don't feel like doing that right now. I only have an hour of free time, so I might as well make it something quick. I'm sure we've all been guilty of this before, at least one time or another, but sometimes I find myself browsing Steam, adding games to my list of games to play, more than actually playing the games that are on my list. I'm even guilty of this with Netflix. I'll browse Netflix's catalog.
Oh, the three-body problem. Dude. Modern day people just don't understand human relationships, okay? The first part of this series was so bad and tragic, okay? Breaking Bad was good. The second part of the three-body problem and the human relationships didn't matter at all anymore. That was good. I liked that. Dexter, good. I liked it. People didn't like the ending. I liked the ending. Trailer Park Boys didn't watch. Dark. Didn't finish watching it because I felt that that's a better way to leave. Ozark, have heard of this? Didn't watch. Black Mirror, nope. A lot of things. The Mist. Wait, oh, that is The Mist the one with the monsters, or is The Mist this one where the people resurrect? Is that even a series, or is that just a TV show? It was a TV show. Whatever.
More than watching anything on the platform. So it comes down to this. Do I have enough time to play the games I want to play? Am I getting older and my interests in games are changing? Are video games getting worse? Are video games getting better? Honestly,
Having the ability, honestly, to just relax and watch something for an hour like a movie when you feel like it once in a month is so relaxing and great, honestly. It is just unparalleled, okay?
there's a lot of questions here, but what it boils down to is this. I think everything can be true at once. Am I getting old? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean I can't still enjoy new video games when they come out. Video games will always have a special place in my heart. Nostalgia aside, video games give me a source of entertainment, and they distracted me from times of depression in my mundane life. Yes, video games today face new problems that didn't exist 20 years ago. And yes, there does seem to be a general sense of laziness and stagnation from the video game developers today. But on the other hand, you could also argue that video games and the video game industry as a whole is better than it ever has been. When I think about where we first started to where we are now, it truly is a milestone, despite the negatives, and I can't help but think about the future of gaming and where it possibly can go next.
Probably some dark, scary corner that I honestly don't want to see. Virtual reality, everyone, it's gonna be a thing. I'm not playing that. 10 out of 10. Bye.